Hey everybody, welcome to Obscurities and Miniatures. Time for a quick video today because I spent all of my free time having strings of expletives come out of my mouth looking for models by the company that is producing the model in front of you right now, and I'm coming up on empty, and it's quite frustrating. And it's not like some kind of a Mandela effect. I know I painted their stuff. I know I have it. And if some crazy person wants to actually go back through some of these old weekly painting progress videos, you probably can find it. And I speak none other than Dungeons and Dreadnoughts with their new Cyber Samurai Chaplain. And I saw this guy. Now, back in the day, when Dungeons and Dreadnoughts first started out, they had their Stormblade Executioners, which were some great-looking samurai powered armor guys with a whole bunch of variety of parts. And I know for a fact that I have painted some, and I'm going to have to go back to prove it to myself. But nevertheless, so one of the cool things is Dungeons and Dreadnoughts have long had an established sci-fi grimdark aesthetic, which is still quite present here. But they've always integrated it into a typical fantasy tabletop standard. So you've got very grim dark models that would absolutely fit in to a typical D&D stat block, which is kind of cool and funky, and I'm all for funky. But their most recent endeavor, which I am all for because I've been keeping an eyeball on their sculpts and progress on this stuff, is a whole army of nothing but samurai-themed Tau adjacent powered armored soldiers with big mechs. And mechs are something that I'm always here for, along with chaplains. I love chaplains. In fact, I just grabbed a bunch of other random chaplains from various companies just because I have them handy sitting around. Because, well, who has chaplains of various shapes and sizes sitting around other than people who really dig chaplains, right? You know, one of the very first actual Space Marines I picked up from Joy Toy was, in fact, the Chaplain. I've always liked the Chaplain models from 40K on back. There is absolutely truth in the rumors that at some point back in the days of like Shadow War, Armageddon, and early one-page rules, I was rolling with Chaplain kill teams. So, yeah, been there, done that. Love me my Chaplains. So the fact that we're getting samurai-themed greater good adjacent sci-fi mecha style power armor chaplains to accompany our samurai is quite cool. And one of the really cool things actually I wanted to point out about this model before I go off on a real big tangent is the fact that they come in a couple of options. Now this guy that's already been glued together here is basically just the body, arms, and then the head, shoulder pads, backpack, the usual things that you can add. If you wanted to get really nitty gritty, because I'm not super happy with how I posed it, the option is available for the complete breakdown of all the parts. Individual hands, individual arms, separated legs, separate torsos, you know, so if you really want to have like all matching shoulder pads, that's an option if you want to get into the real technical nuts and bolts of things. And with the fancy bases, whether or not he ends up on this base, I'm not 100% sure because I'm not a big fan of sculpted bases, but that's just me being picky. Now, the other reason I wanted to talk about Dungeons and Dreadnoughts, besides the fact that I want a tabletop samurai cyberpunk army, is just that, cyberpunk. So, as I was mentioning earlier, Dungeons and Dreadnoughts has always had that grimdark aesthetic, which they've really nailed down. They've really done well with the multi-part modular, units and stuff. No denying that. Great models there. In fact, I'm probably going to have to go back and clean house and find the other ones that I have. But recently, this month, they actually started doing a full-on cyberpunk style release, which I was really surprised because tabletop cyberpunk stuff is pretty few and far between. I mean, we have a couple of big players, and that's about it. I know everybody dabbles in it now and then, and I'm all for that. I love seeing people kind of break out of their comfort zone, try something new, and I'm absolutely there to support it. So they started up with their whole Orseon Militia, which I thought was an interesting name, but the models that really popped out to me where they had a mechanic extraction team. Now, you'll notice right away that the pose is much more fluid, it's much more dynamic, and that's because actually all of these are monopose as well. And I think I got most of the supports off of him. But, you know, immediately my mind went to like the Cyberpunk extraction teams. But these guys are actual mechanics. So like they have separate pieces. You can see like all the bits and stuff there, and need to clean a little bit more on those screwdrivers. That's okay. Got the guy squatting, getting ready to work. Detail's quite nice. I haven't even had a chance to spray these. I pulled them off the printer this afternoon. I am filming this evening. So that says something right there. This is the kind of stuff, like, I really like it. I want to get it straight to work on it. Again, another of the mechanics. And what really grabbed my interest was, well, if you're going to have mechanics, you got to have something to work on. And that was this guy right here. This was a completely modular assault mech. I mean, I want to say the legs themselves were probably at least 5 pieces. Very interesting construction of it. It's got a major anime aesthetic, which, again, is something that I'm always going to be there for. Not the typical Dreadnought. You know, I felt like looking at it, for whatever reason, those binders on the back instantly made me think of like the Sinju from Gundam Unicorn. Doesn't come off very Gundamish, but anything that instantly brings up Gundam in my mind, I'm like, I'm there for it. There were a couple of different weapon options. You know, there's a lot of flex on all of the ball joints, so I mean, you can go to town on getting funky poses, and it's a good size. It's a little bit bigger than an actual tag, which I happen to have handy. But I really like this design, and I'm absolutely looking forward to getting some paint on this. The fact that it doesn't have any little baby arms like a typical tag from Infinity means that you can probably get away with using this in just about any kind of game that's going to need mechs, be it Gamma Wolves, be it, like, I know, if you want to throw it in an epic game, why not? If you're going to do something like 5 Parsecs or any of those type of games, this is not a test. Whatever the case may be, what was it? The Doomed you can have in there. I think that model's going to be great. And they had some other cool stuff. They had these guys in trench coats. I believe these were their Vigilance Network operatives. And instantly when I see the swords, the trench coat, the big guns, the fact that it looks like he's wearing almost a crisis suit, I don't know why, it made me think of Syndicate Wars. Team of these guys just coming in, blowing everything up, and they're pretty big. What's interesting is they are a bit taller than the mechanics themselves. We also had some peacekeeper squads, more like your typical armored security forces. Helmet gives me shades of scout troopers of the Empire. Not necessarily a bad thing. And there were a couple other models, but I'm already dragging things on and getting the eye for my wife. Pop it in the room because she wants me to hurry things up, which is absolutely fine. We can do that. But I wanted to just do a quick comparison just to give you guys a good idea of what to expect if you did want to go this route, grab some of these models while they're available and standing, hopefully. At first I thought, well, they look really big, you know, but actually that's not really the case. Maybe if we didn't have a skulking Delac there, if we had somebody standing upright, do I have any other models that might be in the Underhive that are particularly cyberpunk-like? I thought I did, and I don't know where I put them now. Shoot, I thought I had some Ash Waste Nomads, but that's okay. Let's grab some actual cyberpunk guys. Titanforge, I believe? Cyberforge, maybe? Grabbing a similar style security force from Anvil Digital Forge. Anvil stuff I really enjoy, but they are scaled a little bit more in line with traditional GW models. It's like, here's another Anvil figure. They're going to be a lot more like War Games Atlantic scale, if you're familiar with their stuff. like so. We have a random print minis figure here. Again, a little bit more in scale. I don't know if she's just short, but you can see there's definitely some height to our Vigilance Network operatives, but they look like they're supposed to be, you know, pretty hardcore dudes as it is. Like, let's grab some really weird stuff. Get the Peacekeeper. So if you wanted to have just a really eclectic mix, I don't think, well, this is pretty hard sci-fi. Verge of Wars, Space Pirates. Here, these are all vaguely cyberpunk or cyberpunk adjacent. I think they all work pretty well together. And you can see, yeah, there's a little bit of height variance between everybody, but that's a good thing. We don't want to have everybody be exactly the same. Here, I found another Titan Forge model. So, yeah, I think these are some fun models. If you're not looking for, you know, multi-part, and come to think of it, I can't think of any really multi-part cyberpunk stuff. I mean, yeah, maybe we have some swappable weapons here and there. That's about it. Actually, these guys are exactly one piece, except for the stuff that's been glued on their backs. And I know the Peacekeepers here totally were one piece. So it's kind of cool seeing the best of both worlds. We've got, you know, hardcore build everything to your heart's content, swap everything around. Everything is a single piece, ready to go, to you better figure out what you're going to do with this before you even start gluing, because you're going to have a fun mess of parts. And this thing definitely was kind of crazy. All those armor pieces all over it actually were, you know, separate. I was expecting those to all be part of it. Nope. And I did figure out how to build almost everything on my own, which is always an accomplishment with a model that had this many pieces. But I did have to look at the CG renders as well. So, if any of this sounds remotely interesting to you, and I am absolutely going to be keeping an eye on these cyberpunk, samurai, space warrior, greater good, whatever you want to call them. Cyber Samurai, I think, was the right name. It's really late at night, so I'm forgetting things myself. I'll have a link down below. You guys could take a look at that. And I am going to do my damnedest to find where I put their painted versions of their earlier models as well. And hopefully we can show those off. And so, like I said, if you guys are interested, do take a look. There's some neat stuff coming, and I really want more cybernetic samurai for my tabletop. And I hope you do too. So, with that said then, this has been High Lord Tamerlane with Obscurities and Miniatures, saying thanks for watching, and we will see you back here soon. Bye-bye.